6 chalets across Quebec, everyone priced under $130,000. One is a furnished lakeside retreat tucked into the Charlevoix pines. Another sits 20 minutes from Quebec City with a spa built into the deck. The cheapest drops to $75,000 inside one of the most spectacular natural regions in Canada. But only one of these is the kind of hidden gem buyers in Toronto or Vancouver would pay 10 times more for. And the average buyer scrolling real estate sites would walk right past it without realizing what they missed. So which one's actually the steal? Let's count them down. Number 6 is the LA Malbaie Chalet at 495 Rang Sainte-Madeleine, priced at $129,000. This one sits in Charlevoix Est, on Quebec's North Shore, about 150 kilometers east of Quebec City. And before you brush it off as another rural cabin in the middle of nowhere, you should know that La Malbaie is the kind of town that quietly hosts world events while almost nobody outside Quebec talks about it. The Fairmont Le Manoir Richelieu, perched on a cliff right above the St. Lawrence River, was the host site for the 44th G7 summit back in 2018. That same hotel, originally built in 1899 and rebuilt in 1929 after a fire, draws luxury travelers from across North America every single year. So that's the kind of neighborhood this chalet sits inside. Now, the property itself is small, but the value is huge. You're looking at a 2-bedroom, 1-bath chalet with the option to easily convert a 3rd bedroom if you want extra space for guests. It's not a sprawling estate, but it doesn't pretend to be. What it actually offers is something you usually pay double for in this region. The lot is bordered by a lake, surrounded by a mature red pine plantation, and crossed by small wooded trails that turn the entire backyard into your own private forest. You step outside in the morning with coffee, you hear the lake, you walk through tall pines, and you forget what day of the week it is. But here's the part most buyers don't expect at this price point. The chalet comes fully furnished and fully equipped. Beds, kitchen pieces, patio gear, even the decor. That single detail saves a new owner anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 in setup costs, which is the kind of hidden expense people forget about until they're standing inside an empty cottage with a credit card in hand. Now, if you actually want to leave the property and explore, you've got serious options nearby. Mont Grand Fond is right there. It's a 4-season outdoor playground with alpine skiing, cross-country ski trails, snowshoe routes, and summer hiking. The Hautes Gorges de la Rivière Malbaie National Park sits about 40 kilometers northwest of town, offering hiking, cycling, and a scenic boat tour along the Malbaie River. And the Casino de Charlevoix sits right next to the Manoir Richelieu if you ever want a quick night out without driving back to a major city. La Malbaie itself is small, with a population of just over 8,200, so you get peace and silence, but you're not isolated. There are restaurants, shops, basic services, and you can hop in your car and reach Quebec City in under 2 hours. Here's the hidden detail almost nobody outside Quebec knows about this town. La Malbaie sits directly inside the Charlevoix Astroblème, a massive crater zone created by a meteorite impact roughly 350 million years ago. The crater is about 56 kilometers wide, and it's the reason the entire Charlevoix terrain has those dramatic ridges, fertile soil pockets, and the unique geological character that's now protected as a UNESCO World Biosphere Reserve. So when you sit on the porch of this chalet and stare at the surrounding hills, you're literally looking at the rim of an ancient meteor crater. That's not a feature most $129,000 cabin owners can casually mention to guests. However, this property has one quiet weakness that keeps it out of the top spot. At $129,000, it's tied for the most expensive cabin in this entire countdown. So while the location is genuinely magical, you're paying premium for that Charlevoix address. But what if you could get a similarly priced 2-bedroom retreat much closer to a real city, with river access and a wood stove already installed? That's exactly where number 5 lands. Number 5 is the Trois Rivières Cottage at 143 Chemin de Batture, priced at $129,000. This one shifts the entire conversation. Instead of remote Charlevoix beauty, you're now sitting inside one of the most historic cities in all of Canada. Trois Rivières was founded in 1634 by French colonists. It's the second oldest permanent settlement in New France, right after Quebec City. Today, it's a full-size city of roughly 140,000 people, sitting almost exactly halfway between Montreal and Quebec City, right where the Saint-Maurice River meets the mighty St. Lawrence. The cottage sits in the Pointe-du-Lac borough, a former municipality that merged into Trois-Rivières back in 2002 and currently holds around 6,900 residents on its own. So this is what you actually get. A detached bungalow-style three-season cottage with 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and 6 rooms total, sitting on a flat lot of just over 5,200 square feet. The cottage was built in 1948, so it has the kind of post-war Quebec character you can't fake with new construction. Wood grain interior, a real wood stove anchoring the living space, and a layout designed for actual cottage living, not for Instagram photos. But here's where it gets interesting. The property sits right near the St. Lawrence River, which means you're not just buying a cottage, you're buying access to one of Canada's most historic waterways. Local tourism boards specifically highlight the Pointe-du-Lac area as a launch point for kayaking, paddleboarding, and wind sports. So your seasonal weekend trips can include actual river adventures, not just sitting in a lawn chair. The cottage itself is a charming 3-season chalet near the river, with a friendly living room, a functional kitchen, and a peaceful, natural setting designed for relaxation and open-air time with family. It's not luxury, but it's honest. You know exactly what you're buying, and the location is genuinely rare. Most cottages this cheap are at least 2 hours from any real urban center. This one puts you inside a working city with restaurants, hospitals, retail, cultural attractions, and the famous La Violette Bridge, which is the only bridge across the St. Lawrence between Montreal and Quebec City. Roughly 40,000 vehicles cross it every day. The deeper secret almost nobody talks about with Trois-Rivières is its history. The city was once called the world capital of paper around 1930, producing newsprint from 4 massive mills along the Saint-Maurice River. The Université du Québec à Trois-Rivières opened in 1969 and helped pivot the city's economy when the paper industry declined. So you're buying into a city that has reinvented itself multiple times over almost 400 years. The old city of Trois-Rivières was officially declared a historic sector in 1964, and the downtown holds some of the oldest standing French-Canadian buildings on the continent. The Ursuline Convent, built way back in 1697, still stands in the historic core. So if you ever wanted weekend dinners surrounded by 300-year-old architecture, this cottage gives you that, without forcing you to live in the downtown chaos. But there's a small catch worth mentioning. This is a 3-season property, which means winter use requires upgrades. And while you're paying $129,000 for a city-adjacent location, you're getting the same price tag as the Charlevoix lakeside chalet, with less raw nature. So depending on what you actually want from a cabin, this could be the smart pick or the wrong pick. However, just a few doors down on the same street sits a nearly identical cottage that costs $10,000 less. So is that one the smarter buy? Number 4 is the Trois-Rivières cottage at 145 Chemin de Batture, priced at $119,000. This is the property that starts to actually make this list interesting. Same street, same Pointe-du-Lac neighborhood, same access to the St. Lawrence River, and on paper, almost the same cottage. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 6 rooms total, built in 1948, 3-season bungalow-style construction. The kind of cottage that quietly survives decade after decade because it was built simply and built right. But the differences are where this property actually starts to win. First, the lot is bigger. You're looking at almost 5,956 square feet here compared to roughly 5,266 next door. That's an extra 690 square feet of outdoor space, which on a small cottage lot makes a real difference for parking, gardening, fire pits, or just keeping a buffer between you and the neighbor. Second, the privacy. The yard is bordered by mature cedar hedges, which is something a lot of buyers underestimate. Cedar hedges create a natural wall. They block road noise, hide the property from view, and give the entire backyard an enclosed, intimate feeling that the neighboring cottage just doesn't have. So even though the cottages look similar from the outside, the actual experience of being inside this yard is quieter and more private. Third, the construction details are honest and practical. Electric baseboard heating, electricity as the main heating source, a tin roof, vinyl siding, a separate shower, and no basement. None of that screams luxury, and that's the whole point. This cottage isn't trying to be a luxury build, it's a straightforward seasonal bungalow that delivers exactly what it promises with no hidden surprises. But the location still does the heavy lifting. Tourism boards across Quebec consistently market the St. Lawrence as one of the province's defining natural playgrounds. The river shapes the climate, the cuisine, the recreation, and the lifestyle of every community along its shores. So buying a riverside-adjacent cottage in Pointe-du-Lac means you're not just buying a building. You're buying lifestyle access to paddling, river views, and a 4th-century cultural identity that defines this part of Quebec. Here's the deeper secret about this Batteries stretch that buyers don't always catch. Chemin des Batteurs literally translates to Tidal Flats Road, and that name reflects the natural shoreline geography of this area. The St. Lawrence near Pointe-du-Lac shifts dramatically with tides and seasons, creating mud flats, bird habitats, and reedy shorelines that attract wildlife year after year. So in addition to being a quiet residential cottage strip, this area is part of a living, breathing ecosystem. There's also a piece of Pointe-du-Lac history that adds genuine cultural depth to this property. The Moulin Seigneurial, originally founded in 1721 and rebuilt as a stone watermill in 1765, still stands in the village. It's one of the last surviving operational seigneurial mills in all of Canada, and it was rescued from demolition in the 1970s by a local resident named Mariette Chenet. So your weekend morning bike rides from this cottage can include real Canadian heritage sites that predate the country itself. For a buyer trying to compare 143 and 145 directly, the math here gets really interesting. You save $10,000 with this one. You get a slightly bigger lot. You get cedar hedge privacy. You give up a wood stove, which the previous cottage has. So the real question becomes whether that wood stove is worth 10 grand to you. For most buyers seeking a summer retreat, it absolutely isn't. The hedge privacy and bigger lot will matter every single visit. The wood stove only matters in shoulder seasons. But the next property changes the game entirely. Instead of a 3-season cottage, you'll get year-round access in a 4-season recreation zone at the exact same price as this one. Number 3 is the St. Cyprien Chalet at 208 C 2nd Rang Est, priced at $119,000. This is the property that flips the entire countdown. Until now, every cabin has been 3-season, which means you're locked out for half the year unless you upgrade. This one breaks that pattern completely. The location is Saint-Cyprien-des-Échemins, a tiny municipality in Quebec's Chaudière-Appalaches region. We're talking about a village of just around 600 residents, tucked into the southern part of Quebec, only about 5 kilometers from the Canada-United States border, and roughly 120 kilometers from Quebec City. The town is mostly forested, mostly agricultural, and its economy runs on forestry, maple syrup, and recreational tourism. So when you say you want to escape from everything, this is exactly the kind of place that delivers it. Now, the property itself is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath bungalow-style chalet sitting on a 730 square meter lot with a water view of a small lake and 4 driveway parking spaces. It was built in 1964, which gives it more solid bones than a brand new prefab. And no basement, so the entire footprint is simple, accessible, and easy to maintain. But here are the details that actually make this property special. It's a vacation chalet bordered by a small lake and surrounded by nature in a peaceful environment, perfect for recharging. It's currently a 3-season property, but it's easily convertible to 4-season use, and it's already accessible year-round. So unlike the previous 2 cottages, you can drive to this one in January without worrying about closed access roads or seasonal restrictions. That alone changes the entire ownership equation. And then there's the recreation. The property sits right next to ATV trails, snowmobile trails, and alpine skiing. That's not just a near-a-lake property, that's a year-round outdoor base. In summer, you've got the small lake setting with calm water, forest air, and that exact kind of stillness people in Toronto would pay $400 a night to rent at a resort. In winter, you've got snowmobile trails, ATV access, and downhill skiing within reach. So one property covers 4 seasons of activities instead of being shut down for half the year. Here's the bigger picture context buyers usually miss. The Chaudière-Appalaches region is one of the most overlooked outdoor recreation zones in Quebec. While everybody talks about Mont Tremblant and the Laurentians, the Etchemins area quietly delivers similar access to nature, similar trail networks, and similar lake settings at a fraction of the cost. The small village environment also means low taxes, low traffic, and almost zero noise pollution. You can hear actual silence at night, and the village itself has a surprisingly active rural culture. Saint-Cyprien holds an annual community event called Saint-Cyprien Toasté, which started decades ago as a small parish fundraiser and has grown into a popular summer gathering centered around classic car shows, monster trucks, and outdoor entertainment. So even though the village holds only around 600 residents, it has its own identity and traditions. The nearest mid-sized town for groceries, healthcare, and services is Lac Etchemin, about 25 kilometers north with a population of around 4,000. And for serious shopping or hospital access, Quebec City sits roughly 120 kilometers away, about a 90-minute drive on regional highways. Now there's one trade-off to be honest about. The chalet is small, so this isn't the property you buy if you want to host 8 people for a long weekend. But for one person, a couple, or a small family who wants a year-round base for outdoor adventures, the math works almost perfectly. So if you're scoring these on flexibility, recreation, and year-round value, this one quietly outperforms the more expensive Trois Rivières cottages. You're paying the same money. You're getting more usable months per year. But the next property cuts the entry price by nearly $40,000, sits 20 minutes from Quebec City, and includes one feature none of the others have. So how does it even exist at this price? Number 2 is the St. Flavien Chalet at 9 Rue du Lac Raymond, priced at $79,900. This is the turnkey value steal of the list, or at least this is the property that forces the steepest debate because the price tag genuinely shouldn't exist for what you actually get. The location is Saint-Flavien, a small municipality of around 1,600 residents in the Lotbinière region of Chaudière-Appalaches. It sits roughly 30 kilometers southwest of Quebec City, which means the daily commute or weekend drive from one of Canada's most beautiful cities is almost nothing. And the cottage itself sits inside a private chalet community called the Domaine du Lac Raymond, lining the edge of Lac Raymond, which the official Quebec Toponymy Commission confirms is the literal lake the road wraps around. So this isn't a near-a-lake property. This is literally on the lake. Now the property is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath seasonal chalet, and it's been improved several times in recent years, so you're not walking into a fixer-upper. You're walking into a refreshed cottage with modern updates already done. Inside, you've got 2 bedrooms, an energy-efficient washer and dryer, a full bathroom, and a modernized open-concept living room and kitchen area designed for entertaining. The open-concept renovation alone makes this feel much bigger and brighter than the original layout, which matters more than people realize when you're trying to host friends and family. Now outside is where it gets genuinely surprising. The outdoor space has been arranged for leisure, and the property comes with a spa already in place. So when you walk out the back door of this $79,900 cottage, you're stepping into a setup that already includes the kind of feature most buyers spend an extra $8,000 to $15,000 adding after closing. That's not normal at this price point. Now there's one catch that explains how this cottage is so cheap. It sits on leased land, not freehold land. So you own the building, you don't own the land underneath it. That ownership structure is common across many private chalet domains in Quebec, and it dramatically reduces the upfront cost while limiting traditional resale appreciation. For someone who wants a turnkey, near-city, lakefront seasonal retreat at the lowest possible entry price, that trade-off can absolutely make sense. For someone wanting traditional land equity, it's a different conversation. But here's the lifestyle math. You're roughly 20 minutes from one of the most beautiful capital cities in North America. You're directly on Lac Raymond. You have a turnkey 2-bedroom layout with a modernized interior, a spa outside, and laundry already installed. The Domaine du Lac Raymond markets itself as a shared chalet community focused on enjoying a little paradise. And the property fits that branding cleanly. And the deeper detail almost nobody outside Quebec knows. Saint-Flavien sits on top of the largest underground natural gas reservoir in all of Quebec. It's a quiet little fact, but it means the village is energy strategic territory with stable infrastructure investment, despite being so rural. The municipality also runs cross-country ski trails and forested hiking paths year-round, so even though you bought a seasonal cottage, the surrounding region keeps offering outdoor activity through the colder months. If this countdown is opening your eyes to what's still possible under $130,000 in Quebec real estate, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into hidden property markets across Canada. So, is this the steal? Honestly, on a turnkey basis, yes. For under $80,000, you walk out of closing with a modernized lakeside chalet 20 minutes from Quebec City with a spa already installed. The leased land structure is the only thing keeping the price from being double. But the final property on this list flips the entire conversation again. The lowest price tag on the entire list, sitting inside one of the most cinematic natural regions in all of Canada. Number 1 is the LABAE recreational property at 4222 Sentier du Lac du Moulin, priced at $75,000. This is the wild card of the entire countdown. At $75,000, it's the cheapest property on this list, and it sits inside one of the most stunning regions in the entire province of Quebec. The location is La Baie, a borough of the city of Saguenay, about 200 kilometers north of Quebec City. Saguenay is the 7th largest city in Quebec, with around 145,000 residents in the city itself and roughly 170,000 across the metropolitan area. And it sits at the head of the legendary Saguenay Fjord, which is one of the longest inland fjords in the world. We're talking about a roughly 65-mile gorge cut through ancient Precambrian rock, with cliffs rising 500 meters above the water and depths reaching 275 meters in places. Beluga whales actually breed in the deep waters of this fjord, and the entire region is protected through Saguenay Fjord National Park, created back in 1983. So when you buy a property in this part of Quebec, you're not just buying recreational land. You're buying close access to one of the most cinematic natural environments anywhere in Canada. Now you need to know exactly what this property actually is before getting excited about the price. This isn't a traditional finished chalet. The site includes a 3-season kitchenette, a travel trailer, and 2 storage sheds, all sitting on an elevated lot with a clear view of trout-stocked Lac du Moulin. The lake itself is stocked specifically for fishing, which means if you're a fishing person, this property is built around exactly what you want. What you do get on the utilities side is more substantial than people expect at this price. Wood heating and electric heating are both already installed. Septic-related equipment is in place. There's a washer, a microwave, and stove inclusions. So even though the main living space is the trailer plus kitchenette setup, you're not starting from zero. You can actually use this property from the day you close. Here's the catch you have to be honest about. This is a recreational base, not a polished, finished cottage. You're not hosting your in-laws here for Thanksgiving. You're using it for fishing trips, snowmobile weekends, hunting season, and quiet evenings beside the lake. So the math on this one depends entirely on what you actually want from a Quebec property. But the Saguenay region absolutely delivers on the lifestyle promise. La Baie sits on Haha Bay, which is roughly 6.8 miles long and almost 3 miles wide. The bay has been a major cruise ship destination since 2006, with the Bagotville military base nearby and the Fjord Museum in the Grand Bay sector documenting the region's history. In winter, the bay freezes over and gets covered with hundreds of ice fishing huts, creating what visitors describe as a small village built right on the ice. Outdoor recreation is the entire point of being here. You've got hiking trails, kayaking routes, sea kayaking through the fjord itself, fat biking, downhill skiing at Mont-Belou, snowshoeing through boreal forest, and via ferrata climbing routes set into the cliffs above the fjord. Year-round fishing draws people who want to catch everything from redfish to cod, with the occasional shark sighting in the saltwater portions of the river. Here's the hidden detail about the La Baie area that buyers don't always catch. The Saguenay Fjord is fed by both freshwater and saltwater at the same time. Tidewaters surge as far upstream as Chicoutimi, sometimes rising and falling 6 meters at the equinox. The fresh, warm tributary water actually floats in layers above the cold, salty water below. So the entire ecosystem behaves differently from anywhere else in Quebec. And the deep, cold waters down below are literally a breeding ground for beluga whales. The cruise traffic alone reveals how striking this region really is. At least 200 cruise ships have visited La Baie over the past 2 decades, with 54 ships and over 50,000 passengers arriving in 2017 alone. So the region quietly attracts international tourists every summer, even though most Canadians have never been here. For roughly $75,000, you're getting your foot in the door of one of the most spectacular natural regions in all of North America, even if the property itself is more rugged recreational base than finished retreat. It splits opinion. Some buyers look at this and call it the steal of the entire countdown. Others look at it and say it's not really a turnkey cottage, so the price isn't actually a bargain. Both takes are honest. It comes down to what you actually want from a Quebec property. So now you've seen all 6. The Charlevoix Lakeside Chalet, both Trois-Rivières riverfront cottages, the year-round Saint-Cyprien Retreat, the Saint-Flavien Lac Raymond Bargain, and the La Baie Fjord Region Recreational Base. Which one is actually the steal really comes down to what you value most. The turnkey comfort, the season range, the price tag, the location, or the raw natural setting. But if you ask me which 2 are genuinely fighting for the steal title, it's number 2 and number 1. Saint-Flavien wins on turnkey comfort and proximity to a major city. La Baie wins on raw price and once-in-a-lifetime regional setting. Pick the one that matches your real lifestyle, not your dream lifestyle, and you'll end up with the right call. Hit subscribe to keep finding hidden gems like these.